Hello, Robert.
Hello, I finally managed to get online. Hello, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Nice to see you. I can put a face to the voice now.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
You've got a lovely voice, by the way. Very eloquent.
Oh, when I
Yeah.
was young, I couldn't speak. It happens occasionally. I will stutter. And there was a word yesterday, a simple word, I just could not say it. Um, I used to be left-handed as a child.
Yeah.
And my teachers at school made me write with my right hand, and I stuttered very, very badly. And to this day, although I've got a degree, I cannot spell. My spelling is the level of a little child. How I
Really?
passed the degree, I really don't know. But um, that caused me to stutter so badly I couldn't speak until I learned to take a breath, breathe in, and then just say one single line at a time. And I kind of overcame it when I was about 12 or 13.
Well done. Well, what it goes to show you, really, we shouldn't stifle children by making them use the right hand because we're just stifling their creativity. I tend to find that left-handed people are more creative. I
Oh,
don't know if that's coincidental or not. Like artists, for example, hairdressers, actors. A lot of them tend to be left-handed.
oh really? I didn't know that. Okay. Oh,
Yeah, well, it's just an observation. There seems to be a higher propensity of left-handed people being in those fields for some reason.
oh,
I think it must be just the way the brain is more wired up, I suppose.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Robert, I thought before we start, just a little bit about yourself. I don't mind telling you about me, just a bit of your background. I
I
know in your voicemail you said that you used to be a Baptist, then a Pentecostal.
Yes.
I don't know if you're we attend a church now, do you?
No, I gave up years ago, never to go back.
Yeah, any particular reason?
It would take too long to go into. There'd be too much
Okay.
hurt to go over. I
Oh,
just left, never to go back. I came to the
okay.
conclusion that the evangelical faith wasn't worth a hoot because most evangelicals don't practice what they preach. They don't believe any of it.
Yeah.
And I don't want
Well,
to go any further than
that's
that.
a very, to be honest with you, that's a very good reason. I mean, if people don't practice what they preach, well, it would be put anybody off. But we haven't got freedoms of speech, then, have we? That's the key thing.
Right.
If that's, yeah. So you said you got a degree. What subject did you study?
I did theology with religious studies and sociology.
Okay, that explains why you got such a very good Bible knowledge. Okay.
Right. That
Well,
was
just
back in the
a,
1990s.
okay. Well, just a brief background for me, really.
I don't really want to go into any personal. No, absolutely not. Thank you.
Okay, that's
No,
fine. That's
no,
fine.
no
Okay.
personal
Just
details.
since I asked you, I thought it's only
No,
fair for
all
me
I
to
need to
do.
know is that you're a Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah. Okay. And I wasn't always a Jehovah's Witness, by the way. Just very briefly, I was actually baptized as a Greek Orthodox.
Right.
Okay. I had no say in the matter. That was it. But then when I was an adult, I decided to look at the Bible, to look into the Bible myself. As did my wife. She's Church of England, actually was Church of England. And both of us, having studied the Bible, realised that actually what we were being taught wasn't exactly us what the Bible was teaching. So then we decided to become Jehovah's Witnesses. That was back in '89.
Yeah, I don't really want to go into any personal details. Your Cookham congregation in Maidenhead, that's all I know about you, and that's absolutely fine.
Okay, that's fine. That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Right.
Um,
So, okay, go ahead.
I've
Then
got
you
your
had a
book,
question
Enjoy
regarding
Life Forever.
paragraph. That's the one. Yeah. Okay.
I'm happy to look at. I mean, have you actually prepared on anything?
Yeah, I've looked at the chapter that you wanted to discuss, chapter 13, paragraph 2.
Okay,
I've looked at the whole chapter.
okay. Lesson 13, paragraph 2. Shall I read it, or do you want to read it?
No, you go ahead. You read it.
False religion does not treat people as Jehovah does. The Bible says that false religion's sins have massed together clear up to heaven. For centuries, religions have meddled in politics, supported wars, and caused or approved the death of countless numbers of people. Some religious leaders enjoy a lavish lifestyle and demand money from their followers to pay for it. These actions prove they do not even know God, yet alone have the right to represent him. that paragraph seems to be saying to me that if a religion is in any way involved in politics or warfare, then it cannot represent Jehovah God. I mean, have I got that right?
Yes, that's right. And the reason is because, well, when Jesus was on the earth, he refused to get involved in politics. They wanted to make him king, but as you may know from the accounts, that he actually drew away from them because it wasn't the time for him to be king on the earth at that time. So he didn't get involved in politics, and he says that we, his followers, should be no part of the world. Okay, we're in the world, but no part of the world. So we Jehovah's Witnesses, for example, we don't vote because we're in effect we're voting for God's kingdom. So we don't vote for human governments. We are law-abiding. We pay our taxes. We follow the laws of the land, except where they conflict with God's laws. You know, and then we'll, of course, then we'll make God as ruler rather than men.
One of the awakes I found online was the 22nd of April 1993, page 6, and it states that if a religion is involved in warfare, or they support war in any way, then they are pawns of Satan the devil, which is kind of a strong statement.
It is.
Yes, it's a little bit confusing. G for Golden Age, which is awake, 1993, 4-22. Now I'm dyslexic, so this is the 22nd of April. Page 6, rather than encourage love for one's brother, the churches have supported and even promoted the killing of one's brother in war. Thus they have become pawns of Satan the devil, just assuredly as were the religions of the ancient Egyptians, Assyrians, Babylonians and Romans. So it calls any religion that's involved in warfare a pawn of Satan?
Well, the reason we say that is because we genuinely believe that the whole world is under the influence of Satan. And the reason we say that is because when Jesus was on the earth, the devil tried to tempt him. And one of the temptations, as you would know, the third one, was that he could give him all the kingdoms of the world if he didn't have to worship toward him. Now, Jesus didn't challenge the fact that he has the right to do that because he has authority over the kingdoms of the world. That's why he'd offered them to Jesus. So without knowing it, governments, you know, although they're well-intentioned, many of them, without realizing it, they're actually under the influence of this evil force, which is why we get all this wickedness in the world today.
One thing that puzzles me would be the Watchtower's involvement for a century in both politics and warfare. In the light of these rather harsh statements, that religions that are involved in politics and warfare cannot serve Jehovah God and they're pawns of Satan the devil, why has the Watchtower been involved in warfare and politics for a century? I'm not talking about individual Jehovah's Witnesses such as yourself. I realise you don't vote and you don't fight in elections. I'm talking about the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. The two corporations, the Pennsylvania and the New York.
They're not involved in warfare.
I beg your pardon?
They're not involved in warfare. The Watchtower. We are we're a charity basically, fundamentally. The Watchtower Society is a charity. We're not involved in any governments or warfare of any sort.
They admit in their own literature that they have past involvement in warfare. In the Watchtower magazine itself.
When the First World War happened, right, many who we'll refer to them as brothers, of course, that wouldn't go to war.
That's not what I'm talking about. That's not the subject of what I'm talking about.
The persons in charge were actually imprisoned. They were in prison under charges, all of them, and then they were released after a short time. That was in 1918. They were actually imprisoned. The organisation. They're not involved in politics or warfare.
Your literature says that you are. Can I please read the Watchtower, November 2016, page 29?
Okay, read it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's paragraph 9 on page 29. Not everything the Bible students did during the period between 1914 and 1919 was in harmony with scriptural principles. Although they were sincere, the brothers did not always have a proper view of subjection to the secular governments. Therefore, as a group, they were not always neutral with regard to the war effort. For example, when the President of the United States decreed that the 30th of May 1918 would be set aside as a day of prayer for peace, the Watchtower urged Bible students to join in the observance. Some brothers purchased war bonds to provide financial assistance to the war effort, and a few even went into the trenches with guns and bayonets. Actually, what they're saying here, I believe, is a half-truth. It's not honest, but they are still admitting that the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society was not neutral during the First World War.
Okay, yeah, I think what it began to say, they didn't always have it absolutely correct. So there was also an admission that at that time they didn't always have it 100% right, because you see there's a scripture that says we have to obey the authorities, hence we pay our taxes and so on, and they didn't quite have that right. But if it conflicts with God's laws, then we don't obey them. So there was that little bit of conflict. But I can assure you that since then, none of us Jehovah's Witnesses or anybody, we go to war, and actually many are in prison for their faith. In Russia, we've got so many that are in prison right now.
Could you just make, please, just make one single point? Don't make point 1, First World War, point 2, Second World War, point 3 today, point 4 Russia, point 5 something, because I can't hold in my head multiple points. You need to make one point, make it well, and let's discuss one point at a time. So it would appear that very early on then, right, they weren't 100% sure whether they should obey the authorities or not. Then that was clarified sometime after that, and I can assure you that since then... don't assure me. I'm not interested in being assured. I need proof.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to a Mormon and they go, brother Robert, I can assure you that Joseph Smith is a prophet of God. Just giving me assurance is...
Robert, what is your agenda exactly?
I want to read the book, Enjoy Life Forever. Yeah. I'm puzzled about the Watchtower's involvement in politics and warfare over the past century. To do that, can we have what's called a dialogue, a discussion?
Yes.
Rather than you kind of preaching at me and saying you assure me of this and assure me of that, because I'm a former Pentecostal, and I have been assured that people have been raised from the dead in Bristol, and limbs were healed, limbs were grown back in Southampton. I'm just making up random towns, but you get the idea. And the dead have been raised in St Austell, and all sorts of things have been assured. But when you actually look at it, it's just stories. I'm really looking at your website, jw.org. I'm looking at your book, Enjoy Life Forever, and I'm interested in the Watchtower's involvement in politics and warfare. Is it possible to discuss that, please?
Well, you've just given me the answer. You've just read the paragraph where the brothers have admitted that very early on, after the First World War, they weren't quite sure whether they should go to war or not. But now that's been clarified for them since then.
That's not true. It's just not true. In the 2016 November Watchtower, page 29, it says some brothers purchased war bonds to provide financial assistance to the war effort, and a few even went into the trenches with guns and bayonets.
When was that though? Which would have been the First World War, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but you do need to let me make my point. If I have a point, I need to sort of start and finish the point. If that's possible, sir. I feel this Watchtower from November 2016 is very dishonest, because it says, let me read it again, some brothers purchased bonds to provide financial assistance to the war effort, and a few even went into the trenches with guns and bayonets. Now that's true, but it's a half-truth. It's not honest. Because the reality is, when I went back and I did some research, actually, Zion's Watchtower, it used to be called Zion's Watchtower before it was called the Watchtower.
Yes.
15th of May 1918, page 6,257 in the green reprints. In the Watchtower magazine itself, Judge Rutherford was encouraging American Bible students, they weren't called Jehovah's Witnesses until later, I think 1931 or roughly. He was encouraging the Bible students to buy the Liberty Bonds. But this 2016 Watchtower article said some brothers purchased bonds to provide financial assistance to the war effort. Yes, they did, because they were encouraged to do so by the president of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society writing in the Watchtower. So that's not very honest, that statement there.
I don't understand. I really don't understand what point you're making now. It's an admission that some did it back then in the First World War. Okay, I'll take the point. Some did.
No. I'm not interested in individual Bible students or Jehovah's Witnesses. That doesn't interest me. My entire focus is on the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society Corporation. The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society Corporation, through its magazine, Zion's Watchtower, encouraged Bible students in America to buy Liberty Bonds to support the war effort. That's the first point I wish to make about this article. So it was the Watchtower that was encouraging brothers to purchase Liberty Bonds. Hello, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. So what do you want me to say?
Well, I'm just making a point. That,
okay, I accept the point. I accept the point.
Right, okay. There's a second dishonest statement in this 2016 Watchtower. It says, therefore, as a group, they were not always neutral with regard to the war effort. For example, when the President of the United States decreed that May 30th, 1918 would be set aside as a day of prayer for peace, the Watchtower urged Bible students to join in the observance. Again, that's true, but it's a half-truth. What the article dishonestly does not tell us is that Judge Rutherford himself went onto a raised platform, a podium, on the 30th of May 1918, with Catholic priests and Protestant clergymen, and Judge Rutherford knelt with them praying for victory in the First World War. Unfortunately, I haven't come across photographs of this event, but Rutherford is recorded not in the Watchtower but in other literature as having prayed on a raised platform with Catholic priests and Protestant clergymen. Rutherford and the early Bible students were doing exactly what the clergy were doing in the trenches during the First and Second World War. They were blessing the troops and praying for victory in the First World War. Jehovah's Witnesses are just the same as all the other religions. The only real neutral ones would be the Quakers, as far as I can tell. I'm not trying to be rude, sir.
Look, okay, the fact that they're admitting it to me, it reassures me. I'd rather they admit they did it rather than to deny it or to insist they hadn't, you know. So I'm not discouraged by that at all. I just feel that the fact that they've admitted that they've been misguided. I mean, if you go back early enough, we used to use the cross as well on the Watchtower.
I'm not interested in the cross. Let's just stick to one single topic.
I know, but it's, you know, it's, I don't quite understand.
Well, your book, Enjoy Life Forever, paragraph 2, talks about warfare and politics, and it says these actions, involvement in politics and warfare, prove that they do not even know God, yet alone have the right to represent him. The Watchtower can't represent Jehovah God. They couldn't have been chosen by Jehovah God in 1919 to represent him here on earth through a faithful and discreet slave. They couldn't have, because they were involved in warfare. And your own literature today says if a religion is involved in politics or warfare, then they're pawns of Satan, the devil, and they can't represent Jehovah God, you see.
The Bible speaks of refining, so they've been refined since then.
Anyone else can use that argument. The Mormons, the Catholics, Pentecostals, Baptists, Anglicans, everyone can say, we are the real religion, and when you point out some error, they say, oh, we're refining. It's just a theological get-out-of-jail-free card. In Monopoly, if you play Monopoly, there's a chance card called the get-out-of-jail-free card. So if you throw 3 doubles, you should go to jail, but you don't. You just hand in a get-out-of-jail-free card. And what you're telling me is a theological get-out-of-jail-free card. You're basically saying we are not to be held account for our actions. And I'm sorry, every religious group should be held to account for their actions, sir.
Okay, Jesus did say that by fruit you recognize them, okay? In other words, by, if you like, what they do and the results they achieve. Yes, we're not perfect. Yes, there's been mistakes made. But look at the result, 1,090 plus languages. That was published, our website.
So what?
We've got 9 million followers, and peace-loving people, don't go to war, we love one another.
They're involved in warfare today. The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society is involved in warfare today.
They're not involved in warfare today.
Yes, they are. Through the Henrietta M. Raleigh Trust, she was a woman who died in 1945. She was very wealthy. She bequeathed all her assets be turned into shares, and the portfolio of shares is called the Henrietta M. Raleigh Trust. It's autonomous, which means it's self-owning. The dead can't own anything, so she doesn't own it because she's dead, and the Watchtower doesn't own it. But the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York is the sole beneficiary for 80 years since 1945 of the Henrietta M. Raleigh Trust. Now, I've got the accounts from the IRS. IRS is the Internal Revenue Service, the American tax authorities. And the sole beneficiary, I think I've got the accounts going up to 2016, where they got just under $700,000 from the Henrietta M. Raleigh Trust, paid to the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York. Now, some of the share portfolios are in arms companies, like Northrop Grumman, which makes the B-2 bomber. Next year they'll be making the B-21 Raider, the black triangular bomber without a tail fin. Honeywell is another company. They make the HIMARS missile system that's being used in Ukraine. And there's even Lionsgate Entertainment, which makes soft pornography. Now, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York has accepted these share dividends after bank fees paid by I think it's the Commercia Bank of Detroit, which runs the Henrietta M. Raleigh Trust. And if there's tax to be paid, all the profits after bank fees and tax go to the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York. So I agree, Jehovah's Witnesses the Watchtower doesn't tell individual Jehovah's Witnesses, pick up a gun and go and fight in a trench and shoot people. I know that. But it's worse than that. Surely it's more hypocritical than that, because they claim that they're neutral in warfare, but in reality they get share dividends from arms companies, as well as a company that makes soft pornography. I find that utterly hypocritical. I remember 10 years ago, the Anglicans and the Catholics were first article on the BBC News and the ITV News, how that their pension fund was getting share dividends from arms companies. And people said, what utter hypocrites the Catholics and the Anglicans are. Here's the Jehovah's Witnesses doing exactly the same thing. There's no difference between the Catholics, the Anglicans, Jehovah's Witnesses. It's all about money at the end of the day.
Okay. All right. Well, I wasn't aware of that. But sometimes, like, for example, we pay our taxes to the government because we're law-abiding. But our taxes can get used for things like that too. And we'll have no control over it. The Watchtower
Bible and Tract Society of New York can say to the Henrietta M. Raleigh Trust, we don't want the money. We don't want that $700,000. It obviously fluctuates each year. We don't want the $700,000. Give it to charity. But no, they say we want the money each year. We don't care if it's share dividends from arms companies and soft pornographers. We don't care. We just want the money. It's utter hypocrisy, sir.
Okay, all right. Okay, Robert. Well, look, I didn't know that. So,
yes.
I'm just. I mean, do you want to pursue this? I mean, I I'm not sure we're getting very far, really.
What do you mean by we're not getting very far? What should we should?
You know, we're trying to help people to get to know the Bible, to understand it, give them a hope for the future. That's really it's our mission, really.
But if you're not but if your organisation isn't applying the Bible, then how can you help people if your organisation is doing the opposite of what it preaches? For instance, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York. Your then governing body member, Lloyd Barry, signed you into membership of the United Nations as an NGO in 1992. Why did the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York? He actually signed the paperwork in 1991. They were accepted as an NGO, non-governmental organisation, a part of the United Nations in 1992. Now, you claim the UN is of the devil. It's one of the satanic beasts of the book of Revelation. Yes. Why did the Watchtower join the United Nations and get involved in politics?
I mean, look, do you agree with the sentiments in this paragraph that Satan is in control?
I think Satan is control of people. Look, the Watchtower simply in this paragraph is just lying to you, sir. Because they are involved in politics and they're involved in warfare. And they have been for a century. There are so many things, other things I could bring out. I'm just pricking the surface with the evidence that I have. That the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society were exposed in a series of 3 Guardian articles. Have you heard about the 3 Guardian articles? The Guardian newspaper of London in October 2001? Have you heard of those?
No.
Well, if you go to the Guardian website...
Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that because, we're spending our time trying to help people, give them hope for the future.
But how can you help people?
Come to an end soon.
But
and I don't want to spend a lot of time going through watchtowers, everything. The fact is,
you don't want to go through watchtowers. I mean, do you know anything about your religion? Do you know anything about the corporation that you're working for, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Pennsylvania and New York?
I don't have debates about it. I really don't. This is counterproductive for me. It's not doing anything for my faith, and I don't want to have debates about what happened in whatever it is. I want to focus on helping people get to know God, get to know Jesus Christ, get to know where we are in the stream of time, and give them a hope for a future, because we believe this world is coming to an end soon. If we've got things wrong, Jesus will put us straight.
But
for the moment, I want to focus on helping people get to know the Bible.
But, sir, if you admit that your Watchtower religion has got things wrong, why should I trust it? Why should I dedicate my life to the Watchtower?
You don't have to trust it. This is where faith comes in.
Faith in what? In Jesus or in the Watchtower?
No, faith in Jesus and Jehovah God.
Where does Jesus tell me to have faith in the Watchtower?
He doesn't tell you. I'm saying don't have faith in the Watchtower, have faith in the Bible, have faith in Jesus. Jesus is our leader, right? And we follow him and we follow the Bible. The Watchtower is a tool to help us to understand the Bible, as is the book that you've got. The book is just an aid to help us to understand the Bible. That's what it is.
Well, I would be happy to look at lesson 7 on the Holy Spirit. I would be a Trinitarian, so I believe the Holy Spirit is he, personal, that means he, not an impersonal it. But if I could just finish lesson 13, paragraph 2, and there's so much more I could say, such as the Watchtower's current involvement with other political organisations such as OSCE, Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe. But the Guardian newspaper wrote an article, the first of 3 articles, on the 8th, I think it was the 8th of October 2001, and they called the Watchtower hypocrites because they said in this article that in your literature, Revelation, its grand climax at hand, the Watchtower claimed the UN was of the devil, but then it provided evidence in the 3 Guardian articles that the Watchtower has joined the United Nations as an NGO. Now, it called the Watchtower hypocrites, and the Watchtower has never sued them. The Watchtower has a reputation for suing anyone and everyone. I know of somebody who was on YouTube who made little cartoons with Lego of a little town called Dubtown. and he moved the Lego pieces around like Wallace and Gromit. It was stop motion photography, and they took him to court in America for making a little model town called Dubtown out of Lego. The Watchtower sues everybody that they can to silence critics, but they never sued The Guardian, and they never sued the United Nations when they issued a letter, which I have. And on this letter, the head of the NGO section stated that the Watchtower Society joined the United Nations in 1992. They applied for membership in 1991, were granted NGO membership in 1992. If this is all a pack of lies, why hasn't the Watchtower sued them? It hasn't sued them because it's all true, you see. But I'll respect your wishes if you don't wish to discuss this anymore. Yeah. Although I would have liked to have gone on to the OSCE membership of the UN, which is today.
I'm not a Trinitarian either. We don't believe in the Trinity either, so we're going to disagree on that point as well.
We need to do... Well, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. I've never been a Jehovah's Witness. So this is life. In life, you happen to bump into people who have different views to you. You know, if somebody supports Manchester United, for instance...
Which I do, by the way.
Oh, right, you do. Well, I happen to be a Liverpool supporter. So there we are. So in life, you just happen that if you support a football team, most of the other football supporters you're going to meet will support a rival team. Not everyone on earth is a Manchester United supporter or a Liverpool supporter. And it's the same thing with religion. Would you like to look at lesson 7, where we just stick to the Bible, nothing but the Bible?
Okay.
And I will let lesson 13 drop completely.
Lesson 7, okay, let's have a look. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for your time, but I will keep my word. I will let lesson 13 drop. I'll just focus on lesson 7 on the Holy Spirit.